Today's Friday night. We have Srishti Bakshi, who embarked on a 3,800-kilometer journey on foot from Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu, all the way up to Srinagar, Kashmir, which is where we're from, over 230 days with the mission of sensitizing masses in the rural heartland of India towards gender-based violence and gender inequality. So much so that she's gotten the highest accolades from the British Commonwealth, being named the India winner of the Commonwealth Points of Light Award. And that's something that she received from the Queen, Her Majesty herself. And we shall hear it from the horse's mouth. Hi, Srishti, how
Hi.
are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Good. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be able to be here tonight.
Please tell us a little bit about your background first off. Tell us who Srishti Bakshi is. You come from a Premier League business school, the Indian School of Business, and you had a career and you left all of that for a cause, but later about the cause, a bit about you.
Okay, so I'm a very ordinary girl. I might be from a premier school, but it is something that came much later in life. I'm an army officer's daughter. I grew up across India in different cultures and in so many parts and corners of the country. And my father, basically, he's a patriot, and that patriotism basically is instilled in us in every bone and blood cell, and that is what we have carried through. Me and my sister, I have a sister as well. Throughout our lives, we grew up a very independent, grew up to be very independent women. Both my parents, my mother and father, basically trained us. I think they were training us to be individuals who we are today, because I see both me and my sister actually have taken a course and a path in fighting for women's rights in different ways, but doing the same thing. It's a lot of people try to probe into how did that happen? How did both the sisters land up doing
That is very interesting,
work in the field, in the same field, though we are from very, very different backgrounds. But her education and mine still, in terms of being in love with the country and always diverting our attention to what is the need of the hour is what makes me an individual. So my dad basically retired from the army, and I went on to the school. I went on to the corporate world, worked there for around 10 years. And
Wow.
after that is when it really, really kind of honed in that I have to use my education and my values, my entire life that I have gained, into a project which I can proudly call that really, really was focused towards bettering my country or towards bettering things in my country. So yes, that's how we kind of landed up in a place where I took on this project.
Sure. Was there a particular incident that prompted you towards gender equality? Why gender equality? I mean, there's so many causes you could be fighting for. Is there something you've personally been through? What's the trigger?
Absolutely. Like I said, that I grew up throughout India. By the time I finished school, I joined my sister in Mumbai, where both of us were in a hostel. So in terms of like being on the street and roughing it out and trying to establish yourself in college and then workspace and having your first job, all of this happened subsequently, but it was not without experiences which every other girl probably goes through in the country. And we were in Mumbai, and we thought that, yeah, it is a very, very safe city, and it is a very safe city. But were we not pushed into corners? Were we not felt up? Were we not facing physically, like people intimidating us in public spaces? We all felt those experiences. So my life is not all cocooned. Yes, of course, in the beginning, when when we were with our parents, they were very, very protective, and we lived in environments like cantonments, which was extremely safe. But when we came out in the world is when we figured out, and that statistic which rings in my head all the time, that every third girl in the world goes through some kind of violence. And the fact is that I am one of those girls as well. So the attitude towards defending oneself was always there. Then, of course, the infamous Nirbhaya case, Jyoti Singh's case, came up, and that pain basically became multifold. And I think that journey towards being a feminist who voices their opinion started there. But finally, the incident which really kind of touched me and made me take this step was that I was in Hong Kong and I came across the Highway 91 case. It was in the media quite a bit. There was a father and a mother and a daughter. They were traveling on a highway, and the mother and a daughter both were basically gang raped because their car was stopped, and in front of the father. And this incident, it just like shook me to another level. I reached back home. I was so shocked that why does this happen again and again? And then the whole questioning about, okay, I'm going to post about this on social media, but I'm just going to be an armchair activist, and I need to, like, I can't live with myself if I just have to only post about it on social media and then forget about it. Yeah. I can't forget about this. So that's what made me then leave my job and decide that I'm going to come back to my country and start something.
Right. And was that the origin of the CrossBow Miles movement?
Absolutely. That was the origin. It happened in 2016. It took me a whole year to conceptualize. And, I sat with my husband and we basically put it all down on a whiteboard in our living room. That what is it that I can do as an individual with a group of people to be able to basically work towards bettering the state of women in India. So we had a very pointed plan in terms of what we are going to do. I wanted to take on a journey where I'm able to come face to face with these women. Like the least I can do is talk to them and understand what are they going through. And I wanted to be in the interiors of the country as well as the urban, side of the country, and understand both worlds and also present these two worlds. So that's how we came about the fact that we are going to have conversations. We are going to have very meaningful conversations with these women. And these conversations are what we are going to relay to the world on what we found out on the journey.
Right. So I'm curious to know, why on foot? Why not take public transit? Why not a private vehicle? Why did you want to do it that way?
Because when you're in a train, in a bus, I'm from the army background. I've traveled so much extensively in the country, but did I know my country? Even after 25, 30 years, traveled extensively. Did I know how a village looks like? What problems do people face? Did I have enough time to stop by and look at every corner and have a conversation with the women I encounter while on the journey? No. But this journey was aimed at meeting each and every person who wanted to come themselves, join a journey like this, and also me meeting these women face to face while I'm traveling. Because you could go in a car from village to village and miss out that lady who I met on the highway who was sitting and selling custard apples. And it was Tamil Nadu. It was the very start of my journey. And I had, because of the language barrier, I don't know Tamil, but we had a car which used to follow me so that there is safety on overtaking. So this lady read on the car that I'm doing this. I'm walking from Kanyakumari to Srinagar for women's safety. So she came running to me with her custard apples in a bag. And she said, I know that you are, what you're doing might not make the country safe for me, but my daughter is going to hear about this today when she comes back from school. And I think what you're going to do is going to cascade into something which will help my daughter. So thank you so much. So I don't think that I would have been able to ever meet her if I would have been in a car.
I think a lot of it's like a domino effect as well, right? I mean, you start a movement, even if it's not this generation, like you mentioned. And what do you think is the primary problem, though? Why do you think we have these biases? Why do we have this inequality there? It's not like that over here. I've grown up in Canada, and things are so different. We have a lot of Indian families here, and you would expect some sort of a similarity there, but it's not. Why is it so prevalent back home in India?
This is something that I discovered in my journey. And this is like what really holds true on the ground for me, was that initially when I was walking, I looked at this problem like it was a huge mountain in my head, that, my country is unsafe and all the bad things, what are happening to women there. And, I have to fix it and I have to go and figure this out. And this big mountain was really scary, because it was made up of all these molesters, these people who invade your private space, who throw acid on women, and those who rape, and all these horrible things that people do. But as my journey progressed, I met so many different people. And what I figured out is that for each of these horrible people, like the worst case of humanity, I would say, I also met like several very good people, which is that I met a father who would cycle 20 kilometers in the opposite direction to his farm to drop his daughter to school. I met a brother who was championing, like he walked with me several kilometers, just trying to understand how to, he would ask me, Didi, how do I motivate my sisters before they get married to be independent? Because I know that in my village, these women, they get married and then their husbands are drunks. But I want my sisters to be independent, and I can't fight with my family. So how should I train my sisters to become independent? So these are the people who made me believe that for every person who is probably inflicting this violence, I'm meeting 20, 30 people who are really good. 50 people who are really, really good. And that is when I came about. Anchor of my journey is that it's the violence of the minority, but it is the silence of the majority is why violence perpetuates. So we are silent. The good majority is not speaking up. And that is why the only thing we are hearing about is all that is bad with the country. Yes, it has to be fixed, but more people have to join and show support and show their really, really strong voices against the violence. That is what is missing. And that's why we feel that why is it that India is so on the spectrum of women's safety so low?
You walked 35 kilometers a day, 35 to 38 kilometers a day, something like that.
Yeah.
It just seems so unreal, when I think about it. And you're such a brave woman to do that. Were there fears? Were there apprehensions? I just want to know about, how you felt through the whole thing, how you kind of delivered.
I think it was the impeccable planning of my father. He had just retired from the army. And me and him, we sat down and we prepared for this for 1 year. And everybody came together. Of course, my father was like the anchor of operations, and he took on that whole responsibility of making it happen. Now I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened, but around this whole journey, there are so many people who just joined in because they felt passionate about the same truth I was seeking. It was not just family. It was my sister. It was my mother. It was my husband. But it was my mother-in-law also, father-in-law also. All of these people who were core. And then there was around that whole aura, I think more and more people joined from each of these individuals through their connects on this journey. I used to walk 35 kilometers a day. There was a team who used to support me, but they were not walking continuously with me because I trained for 1 whole year for this journey. It was a very, very intense training, muscle memory training, so that, muscle repairs in the night so that you can walk again in the morning. It was an intense physically exhausting and mentally exhausting journey. But at the same time, every 35 kilometers we used to walk. We used to then mark on the road with a white paint that this is the point where we are ending our journey. Then we used to sit in the car and then go to the nearest village or the nearest school that we could find to talk to girls. And a lot of government officials then came in to host us. I and my sister, actually we wrote to each and every district collector so that they are able to understand that, okay, we are coming to their district, and if they want us to engage with women. Some responded, some didn't. And when some who did respond actually made others respond that, okay, from my district, this girl is going to be handed over to your district. So you please come and receive her at the borders. You know how district collectors are the kings of a particular district in our country. So from village to village, we were basically handed over. The police came in, not for protection, but police I wanted to work with because I wanted to understand what are their struggles. So they used to walk with us. There used to be constables, sub-inspectors, women. They used to come and walk with me because they were obviously so close to this whole life of seeing violence every day. So they wanted to have conversation. And they would spend hours with me to tell me about what is wrong with their village, how are they working towards it. So that's how we used to go about the journey. But in terms of our workshops, we were very focused on how to empower women with confidence and bringing them on digital. Each and every woman, no matter what the village is, I saw them with a phone. So, that was something that I knew as a statistic that in our country, That is, we have to use this as an armor to propagate a new life for women. And that's what we focused on with Google. So Google runs a program called Google Internet Sathi.
Okay.
And we used to talk to them about how you can come on the internet without knowing how to read and write, just with voice search, give them examples of different women who have changed their life, became independent through the internet, through the knowledge of the internet.
Right.
And, this one girl who basically started her own tailoring business, another girl who became a beautician. She was not trained by local beauticians. She was trained by people probably posting videos of makeup online on YouTube by famous makeup artists. So she became so famous in her village that she could open 3 beauty salons in the nearby villages. And her example was one example that I used to give everywhere, that with internet, despite not knowing how to read and write, if this woman can do it, if this girl can do it, even you can do it. So that's how we used to have conversations, very targeted and very, very, focused with the women that we met in the workshops.
Very cool. So the CrossBow Miles movement, what are you guys doing right now? What's the next step?
So once the journey finished, we were focused on basically putting the conversations that we have had into formats which could be shared with the rest of the world. For the last, actually, a year and a half after the journey finished, I was focused on bringing a documentary alive.
Yeah.
So my sister is in the field of production, and she's one of the producers of Delhi crime series as well. So that's her journey.
Right.
And because she had that whole background, because she knew that I would get really, really raw and beautiful stories from around the country, she equipped me with a crew of very, very passionate individuals who shot the entire journey, who shot conversations, who took interviews of women we met. And all of this compilation was something that we had to sit on an edit table and make a documentary out of. So I was focused on that. The documentary is almost ready. Right now we are in the phase of bringing it to the entire country so that I can relay what did I find out, who are these women I met, and how these women will definitely inspire other women with confidence, because these are the women who have faced the violence and then come out of it. So it's about them. It's not about my journey, or it's not about me. It's about the women I met.
I think that makes it very relatable, and especially for rural India. In terms of platforms, what are you thinking? Where do you plan on releasing this documentary?
First, it is going to definitely, we're going to try on an OTT and try and get people to have a look at it. Whoever wants to, take it on. And we are participating in several festivals. So we've just started our festival round so that it goes to different, countries, different people are able to view it. And because, Sasha, my journey has been about people who are other people who are champions in their own might. So I had a lot of corporates who came on board. The thing is that it was not the corporates actually who came on board, because whenever I presented my plan, I was in boardrooms. I was I was this weird girl who would come and present this crazy plan, whether she'll be able to do it or not, who's going to sponsor her, no. But the thing is, in that boardroom, when I used to present, there used to be 1 or 2 individuals in the meeting who would look at me and say that I am going to probably champion this woman. So through those individuals is how my journey came about, how my initial sponsors came about, how many team members came about. So this is what the journey of the film is going to be, I think, that it's going to go out in the world, and then individuals are going to take on the onus to further propagate it and further take it into interiors of the country. So
I'll be one of your propagators. I really believe in the cause. It's strange because after the entire Nirbhaya incident, and then a lot of other incidents that I'd initially been reading of, it scarred me so bad that I think 2 weeks I went emotionally numb. And after those 2 weeks, I sat down and I wrote a song called Nomad. And it's for you, if it's having that army background. For me, it's my music, right? And whatever the medium, I think at the end of the day, it's about the intent behind what you're doing. I'm very, very privileged in a lot of ways to be talking to you right now. Thank you so much for what you're doing. This is definitely a cause worth fighting for, especially in our country. And I will let you go now. Thank you so much for joining. And
thank you.
If there's anything we can do to support you when the documentary is out, I would love to put up posts and share it and just get the word out there.
We are
And
very excited. Yes, we're very excited about the documentary. I hope it reaches
I'm sure.
far corners of the world. Also to represent this whole aura that India has created, which is a negative aura of being unsafe. So we also want to bring out the fact that yes, it might be unsafe. It is unsafe everywhere, but there are these individuals and very strong women who are fighting it and who are fighting for other women alongside.
Ah, beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you, Srishti.
Thank you. Thank
And I
you,
hope to see you in
Shashaa.
person someday and converse.
Absolutely. Looking forward. All right.
Good night. Good night. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Good night.
Awesome. So that was Srishti Bakshi. Thank you to everybody who joined in. This was such a beautiful conversation. There's so much inspiration there. So that is it. Good night. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined, and I shall see you with another Friday night live episode next Friday, 9 p.m. with a little bit more inspiration and stories and conversation. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.